Perfect. All right, welcome back, everyone. Happy New Year. This is the first session for one of our AMA series. We have a new guest on. He's a new co-host. This is Paul Stout. He is a CTO, so we're very glad to have him on. So you'll start to see him on more for sessions moving forward for the rest of the year. And as you guys know, we have Nigel Boston on as well. He's a threat intelligence lead at Granger. Then you have me, Kenneth Ellington, the founder and CEO of Ellington Cyber Academy. So we want to organize these series a little bit better. So we're going to be having them every other week moving forward, and we'll have some on Saturdays where we bring in other guests as well. For next Saturday session will be, I think, February 7th or so, and that will be Marquisha and Gladys will come on like they did for this past December. So any questions or concerns about that at all, guys, for audience members, just please let us know. Second thing is, as everyone knows, or maybe you guys don't, we opened up the new cyber range for ECA. Both Nigel and Paul are a part of it. Nigel is starting his threat intelligence workshop series this Wednesday, right, Nigel?
Yes, this Wednesday.
Perfect. Starting this Wednesday, and I'm having both Paul Daigle and Paul Stout doing some AI and machine learning stuff with Splunk as well next couple of months too. That's coming up on deck. So you guys have any questions about that at all for what we do for the cyber range, please let us know. If you can get onboarded right now after the call, please let us know. We'll stay afterwards to help you guys out with that for how it looks like. And I'll also be dropping the link inside the chat as well, so you guys have that link as well. Then for today's main talking points, we want to cover the talking point about, or topic about, should not go to college? And that's always been a hot button topic, especially for cybersecurity professionals and IT professionals, on the value of having a college degree and the value of not having a college degree. So we're coming from it from three different angles. Paul, who is a hiring manager and he's a CTO. Me from a more of a practitioner side, and then from Nigel, who's a threat intelligence person. And because I'm also a business owner as well. So we'll cover some of the pros and cons of what it looks like, and any questions you guys may have for it, then drop it inside the chat. So I'll start off. Then again, any questions, please let us know. I'll start with the question. From a very high level overview, we're going to narrow down piece by piece. I'll start with you, Paul. Do you believe having a college degree is necessary to be successful in cybersecurity?
As a general rule, I do not. Now, what I find, and so when I broke into this industry, I didn't have a degree. It was maybe 2 or 3 years after that I chose to get one. And that's when I started to see what I view as kind of the importance of that. Is we were entering the economic downturn of 2008 at that time, and the company I was at was doing layoffs, and I viewed it as kind of recession-proofing myself. So when a company goes to do layoffs, they're going to start to look for metrics that they can use to justify those cuts, and that's why I chose to get a degree. So intrinsically, do you need it? Absolutely not, in my opinion. But I would say that there are factors that would make it advantageous to have.
Then you, Nigel?
I would agree. I feel that college could be beneficial for maybe the ATS system, or filling a compliance requirement, or a risk filter maybe for organizations. But generally, I always say practical skills are the way to go. If you're able to speak to scenario-based questions during an interview, a lot of college degree work is theoretical. So I think within the time and revenue that you're going to spend to go that route, it could be placed better with hands-on practical knowledge, in my opinion.
Wait, Nigel, do you have Nigel? I don't think you have a degree, right? From what you told me.
Yeah, no degree.
Okay.
I haven't took one class of college in my whole life, so you can get in cybersecurity without a degree. Living proof right here.
Well, back to how I came into it. Whenever I came in, I didn't have a degree either. I'm ex-Air Force, and so I had resources available to me when I made that choice. It wasn't just like, oh, let me go get a degree and I've just got $100,000 sitting in a bank account, I can go drop on it. So I did have those resources. But to Nigel's point, it is about skills, and that's what got me my first job in tech. Is I put out there on a resume that I had built some Scheduling tools, ETL tools, done some web engineering, and it caught someone's attention.
It looks like our thing is streaming on LinkedIn. It looks like it's a LinkedIn issue. Let me see. But I'll fix it. Okay. So I guess from my perspective, I do have a college degree. I personally loved going to college. Because I wasn't like mentally ready to like have a full-time job straight out of high school when I was like 18, 17 years old. So I needed to go to college for 4 years to like mentally develop myself. So for me, going to college is very beneficial from that standpoint. So I'm glad that I was able to do that from my end. But I do intend college is not for everyone. So it's gonna depend on the person on should they go to college or not. So it's kind of like narrowed down from the focus. We'll start with you, Paul. So you had a military background, correct?
Yes.
What branch?
Air Force.
Air Force. Okay. So would you say that if you didn't go into Air Force, right, would you have gone to college sooner?
Well, I actually did go to college sooner. So
Okay.
right out of high school,
That's right. You did. Then you left, right?
But yeah, I didn't. I mean, just to be candid, I didn't really have my head screwed on straight at the time. I was kind of directionless. I was there because it was the right thing to do, and I just wasn't feeling it. Yeah. So the smartest thing I did during that time was withdraw before they kicked me out. I went to work for about a year and a half, realized I still had no direction in my life, and that's when I chose to take the military route. So it was about 22 when I enlisted. So there's about a 4 year gap there.
Gotcha. Okay. Was that covered? I guess when we went back, was that covered by the GA Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
And this was a post 9/11 GI Bill, which there's kind of a big difference in those. And I don't think many people fall under the former anymore. One of the cool things about the latter is that it's transferable. So if the service member already has a degree, they can transfer that to their family, to their children, to their dependents. And at least at the time I went through, it was this base GI Bill. They market it as $50,000 for college, but they have so many programs where certain schools will match it. They call it the Yellow Ribbon Program. Effectively, you can get north of $100,000 by using that program.
Nice. Okay. And then for you, Nigel, what did you do? What did you do straight out of high school then?
Well, get a job, really.
Okay.
That was my path. I guess something I did do during my time when I was learning, on the side to get into cybersecurity, well, not learning on the side, but trying to get into cybersecurity was I did do a boot camp. And what what I will say about that experience was a lot of the stuff that I learned in the boot camp, I already knew or, was, had a pretty was pretty familiar with it. But what the boot camp did was give me structure. And that's kind of similar to what you would get in college is you would get structure as far as learning different domains, different things like that within cybersecurity. And that's kind of my path. I was learning a lot on my own through YouTube University. You guys should check it out. It's a lot cheaper than most universities. It's called YouTube University. And from there, I was like, let me do a boot camp. So I did like a 6 month boot camp. That gave me structure. It helped me define the difference between like the red side and the blue side because I was just learning all over the place. And then that was actually really it. Then I got a couple certifications, but I was doing a lot of hands-on labs. I was, spinning up environments, breaking things, looking at logs, being able to build dashboards and reports and speak to it. That's how I, was able to, make my stance in cybersecurity.
Would you say that if college was free for you, would you have gone instead of working going straight to the workforce, Nigel?
If college was free, would I still go? Is that the question?
Yeah.
At
Sure. I'm sure. Well, I'm sure at high school. You said you went to work directly out
yeah,
of high school. Would you? So would you have gone to college if it was free directly out of high school to the work?
no, no, not at that time either, because I think it's very important for you to know what you want to do before you go to college, right? Like, or maybe you could figure it out when you're there. But me personally, I'm more of an experienced person. Like, I need to put my hands on things and actually go through things. And I just don't think that period of time for me, I would have been productive if I'm being completely honest. If I went to college, I probably would have done what most college students do who really don't have any idea what they want to do in life. And then that would have probably been 4 years of me just, not working towards where I'm at now. So I probably wouldn't have, but I do see a lane where I would get a degree now. Um, Obviously, hopefully using channels through my company and stuff, through tuition and stuff like that. Now it kind of makes sense for me, but at that time, no, I probably still wouldn't have went if I'm being honest.
Got you. Okay. Guess from like my side, I s- well, I had so I went to Publix for what 4.5 years when I was in college. So they paid for like I want to say 12K of my tuition, and plus because I went to in-state college, I went to USF. It wasn't that expensive. Then I lived at home, which saved a bunch of money from that side too. Then my family paid for the rest of it because my parents are Jamaican, so it's like you're gonna live here, you're gonna go to college, you don't care. Um, so that was kind of the requirement for them. Um, so I think college was under total like probably $20,000 for me for the 4 years. I went to community college for my first 2 years as well. Um, so for the benefit I got, I think was worth the money. The standpoint of college also gives you access to other people you normally probably would never get to meet from like a diversity perspective. Especially where I grew up in Florida, it was very like yellish, not the best way. So I didn't get to meet I didn't get to meet too many of the people that didn't look like me at all. Like going to USF because USF is like an international trade school, so there's a lot of people from different countries that apply to go to USF from all around the globe. So getting to meet them and sharing their different cultures is very important towards me.
Right.
So I'm really glad I got to do that aspect of it. I also got to meet different companies I probably wouldn't get gotten to meet so early on my career, like ReliaQuest or Citibank or Chase Bank, right? That I think I'm beneficial from that part as well. So to go off of that point, who do you think should go to college, in your opinion, Paul? Like age bracket, demographic, socioeconomic status, in your opinion, from like a cybersecurity standpoint.
Man, that's a really challenging question. Let me think about how I would
That's why I asked it.
want to dissect that. I find a lot of the value, particularly in me going through college and especially my graduate degree, was more in the connections that I made and more in the learning that I got outside of the field I was working. So I would say that if you have the luxury of waiting to get in, now clearly, if you need to get a job placed, you need to be laser focused. You need to follow the shortest path to value, do exactly what you need to get in, and then figure everything else out. But if you do have that luxury of waiting, then anyone who maybe wants to grow beyond just a practitioner as they move up in their career. So if you want to move into technology leadership, if you want to move cross-functionally, I started as a software engineer and I've worked as a consultant and I've worked as a systems architect and I've worked all across the board, and now I lead a technology organization. And I think a lot of that was, well, I think I gained a lot of the skills required to understand different aspects of the business through my MBA program. So it's certainly an expansion, but again, back to my original sentiment is if you need to get placed now, if you're on a mission, then it might not be the right time for that.
And you, Nigel?
I would say maybe someone with who doesn't have a lot of financial pressure, right? Maybe living at home, has scholarships, things of that nature. Because during that time when you're at college, you'll be able to stack not only the degree, but you'll have opportunities for internships. You will, get certifications most likely during that. And what you'll leave college with is, a credential, a degree. You'll have, you know, uh, hopefully some experience in some tools. Not hopefully, it's not all theoretical. Hopefully there's some labs involved. And then I guess the biggest piece that you kind of spoke about just now is a network, right? You'll have 4 years to meet so many different people that you don't know where they'll be 5 years from there, or 4 years or 2 years, that you'll, be able to cultivate a very strong network of, like-minded people who are also maybe in the field and interested as you. So, I think that would be someone, if the financial pressure is low, I think that's someone who could potentially go, should check out college.
And that's a great point. That's exactly what I meant by if you have the luxury to do that, if you don't have those financial pressures on you. I would also like to offer that if you are going for networking or for upward mobility or to be able to explore other options, you might want to consider getting a degree that is not in your field of study. None of my degrees are in cybersecurity. None of my degrees are in computer science. I've got degrees in business and, well, if the government didn't give this to me, it'd put me on a watch list, a degree in munitions technology.
Yeah, I would say so. And link is back up, so we're back live again on LinkedIn, thankfully. Hate technology, even though it makes me a bunch of money. But I would say, my perspective, if you're like probably under 30 and you don't have any kids, and your degree, particularly we're talking about technology degrees, you'll make decent money, right? But if Paul had a son, which I don't know if you have any kids or not, Paul. Okay.
No, you might see the cats jump up around as we're on this. They're the closest to children I ever plan on getting.
Okay.
But I do know how I would advise someone if I did, for what that's worth.
So let's say like Paul's son wants to go to college and he asked me for advice, right? Because kids don't like listening towards their parents for some odd reason. So he sends his son to me, Paul Jr. Let's call him that. And Paul Jr. is like, Kenneth, he's like, my goal is to get a degree in liberal arts, and I want to go to out-of-state college. Paul lives in Colorado. Let's say you have to go to USC. And with tuition, books for out-of-state college, I think it's like $50K per year. So he's going to take a $200,000 student loan out. I'll probably tell you, no, that's a terrible idea. Honestly, you won't get the return on investment for that type of degree. Now, in this scenario, let's say he wants to be a brain surgeon, right? And the degree and it costs $300,000 to go to medical school at USC. I would say probably if you're serious about it, then yeah, still take it, because if you're a really good brain surgeon in LA, you'll make probably close to 7 figures. So over the life of that degree, you'll make your money back. Another thing, if you ask me, is he has a scholarship that will cover 80% of his degree program. It's only like $30,000 for the 4 years. I'll say probably go. They'll probably go, right? So this depends on like what your degree is, what your goals are, how old you are, what part of life are you in? Because if you're 45 and you're married and you have 3 kids, probably going to college, like a in-person college, probably isn't the best bet for you at that point. Especially if you already have a degree, I'll probably say no. Most scenarios, especially in our particular field, I don't think it's required. It is helpful, right? It is helpful, especially if you don't have to pay for it or it's very low cost towards you. I'll say definitely go to college. But if you have to pay $100,000 for which a lot of people do, and then they get a degree or get a job that pays them $20 an hour, and it's probably not worth it, right? So it just depends.
Kenneth, I want to tag on something you say often, and that's if you want something, go get it, or else someone else will. We've mentioned that I came into this, and my path toward getting my degree was the military. Now, I'm not going to get into politics or ethics or what you believe on that. What I will say is there are plenty of jobs in the military that don't involve combat, that are support, and that is a path to get a degree. Now, of course, that's going to be a personal choice, whether that's something that people want to square with. I realize right now the economy is, for lack of better words, pretty shitty. And I see on LinkedIn all the time. In fact, I'm talking with a friend of mine who has worked with him several years ago at a job. He's an outstanding systems engineer. And my guy's had a hard time finding a job for several years in a row right now. Now, ship may have sailed for him. Obviously, there are age limits for that. But if you're younger and you're directionless right now, and first of all, if you need a stable income and you do have that financial pressure, it is an option. No one's paying me to recruit anyone into the military. It's a highly personal choice. So you got to soul search and make sure you really want it. But that is a path that's available to a lot of people if you do.
Because on my side, I'm like the only person in my family that doesn't go to military. My mom, my dad are in the Navy. That's how they met. So I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the military. My stepbrother is ex-Army. My stepmom's retired Navy. My uncle is Marine Corps as well. So most of my family was in the military. So it's been very beneficial for me. That's why I was born in Hawaii. People always ask me that because I was born in a military base. So it can be very beneficial. I know some people don't like the military from the time I was in for other personal reasons. But I've heard for the most part, I've heard mostly good things of people that have served, and I know how to put this, know how to play the game, right? How to take advantage of all the resources that are given towards you. It's very important.
You're right. A lot of people don't like it, but again, back to your how badly do you want it? In my life, I've had to do a lot of things I don't particularly like to further my goals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, and let me see. And question towards the chat. For those that are watching LinkedIn, because we are back live now. If you did go to college, why did you go to college? If you didn't go to college, why didn't you go to college? And drop your answers inside the chat. I'm curious to see. And I have educational data on initiative.org. This is the average cost of college and tuition. So the average cost of college in the United States is around $38K per student per year, including books, supplies, and daily living expenses, which is very expensive. If you go to a 4-year college degree, that's like almost $140,000. I'm doing my math correctly. 4 years. So the average private non-private tuition is around $60K per year living on campus. And then considering student loan interest and low potential income, this bachelor's degree can ultimately cost in excess of $500,000, which is a lot.
I have a question.
Yes.
What percentage of, let's say, standard bachelor's cybersecurity degree, what percentage of the syllabus or the degree do you think students do hands-on labs? Like actually build something, work in triage, like 20%, 50%? How much work do you think they do actual hands-on instead of learning a whole bunch of terms and things like that?
I guess it would depend on what the degree program per school and what school you went to. Because I'm going to assume if you go to MIT, right, they're going to probably have a better program compared to if you go to like state ag tech in like Oklahoma or something, right?
Yeah, I guess the state university, like
Standard University,
Georgia.
Okay. From my perspective, I can give my examples. I learned the majority of my stuff through mentorship. So when I went to Publix that summer, I was a cybersecurity threat intelligence intern for Publix supermarkets out of Lakeland, Florida. In those 3 months, I learned more than I did in my 4 years of my college degree. So when I came back that summer, like 4 months later, like the professor asked like 10 different questions. I got all of them right. He's like, Kenneth, he's like, do you work in cybersecurity already? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right. He's like, I'm gonna put your hand down. So yeah, I would say like a small percentage of my degree program was hands-on. Mostly, I'd say 80% of it was like theoretical. I had to find opportunities outside of my particular degree program, inside my college specifically, to get that hands-on experience. So I joined the White Hatter Club for USF. I did the YCAF boot camp, so I went above and beyond to try to get that hands-on experience.
Okay.
I mentioned that I started college and didn't successfully compete it the first time through. Whenever I first went into college, I went in for architecture, like building architecture. And that program was immensely hands-on. In fact, I would say it was probably 75 to 80% hands-on and then, 20% academic. About a year out of that, I switched over to computer science, and it went the complete opposite. It became roughly 80% theoretical academic and about 20%. And this was at Louisiana Tech University. So it was a state school in Louisiana, but it was their technical school.
Yeah.
So I think it really just depends on the program. To Kenneth's point, it depends on the school. There's a lot of factors in that.
Yeah, I think, and I could be wrong. I haven't, please fact check me. But there is this university that I'm seeing a lot of students who are interested in cybersecurity want to go to, and it's WGU. This is not an ad, and I'm not trying to speak ill. But if I remember correctly, last time I looked at their syllabus, I know WGU's syllabus is really geared towards certifications. I think when you complete the bachelor's program, you end up with like 9 or 10 certifications. And if I remember, I didn't see a lot of hands-on opportunities for during that degree. Now, there's nothing wrong with pursuing that degree. It's a great option because it's self-paced, it's online, things of that nature. But I would recommend anyone who's doing that to stack that with hands-on labs. Every domain or every, class you're taking, there's something that you can find hands-on to supplement that with. I think that would be a great idea, and it would be priceless. Like, it's very good to learn the terminology and the reasoning why, behind why what we do. But I think actually doing it would be very beneficial for you, not only for your experience, but for you to speak to in interviews.
Yeah, a lot of my students have taken WGU. I think I don't know if it was Honda or someone else that said it that it's designed WGU is designed if you already work inside the field, right? So if you already work in cybersecurity or technology and you just need a degree to check the box and go get it, right? But if you've never worked in cybersecurity or technology before, going straight for WGU may hurt you in the long run because the way you're saying it is designed, right? It is mainly cert focused, right? So also nuances that someone that may be like 18, 19 years old, that may need to be in person, that may need to slow down, right? Not try to rush through in like 18 months and actually personally develop those impersonal skills and those technical skills more hands-on. May not get that in that type of environment. So maybe may harm them more than does them good for their career. That makes sense.
Yeah.
My bachelor degree is from Phoenix, and it was it was a lot of writing papers. It was a lot of academics. And, I briefly brought up the WGU side as we were talking about this, and it looks to be similar. What I find for at least my experiences with online schools and those who've gone to them is they do tend to be more hands off. They do tend to be more toward getting the degree and
Right,
less so of that practical experience.
right, right,
And again, I'm not crapping on for-profit schools or online schools because I got two certificates hanging right back there on my wall from them. So
right.
And then I guess from your perspective, Paul, because you're a hiring manager, does the name matter on what the school is? So if someone went to WGU compared to Harvard, you take inside consideration?
not one bit. Now that is me, and I know hiring managers who absolutely will. So mileage may vary with that, and I think that really depends on kind of the size of your company that you're applying for, and I almost said the prestige of the company, but that's wrong. It's more of how highly the company thinks of themselves as to whether or not that matters. And I've had low key concerns that my for profit schools would hold me back. I got my job at Splunk with a for-profit degree for what it's worth, and I would say the Splunk is kind of a name brand to have on the resume. So it really depends on the hiring manager. It also depends on what kind of body of work you can bring in with you. Whenever I came into Splunk, first of all, I'd worked with a guy who had worked there before, so he had seen my work firsthand. I had a portfolio of projects I had worked on, and same thing when I came in there. So what I would say is whatever you don't bring to the table in your degree, make up for it double in your experience in your portfolio.
Nigel, from your side, have you seen if people on your team have gone to like larger universities, like the Ivy Leagues, compared towards smaller schools, do better than others?
No. I will say I'm probably the only person on my team who doesn't have a degree. But no, to me, it's not even something that's discussed really. Even in interviews, like I don't. It's not even a talking point really. And this is just my personal opinion. I think it's more of like an HR ATS system check, honestly. Like I've heard from, people in the industry, it doesn't even matter what your degree's in as long as you have the degree and it says bachelor's, like so it just depends. I think you should be very strategic because it's a commitment, and you should be very strategic on how you want to do that. You should lay out all the options you have, due time, cost, and what the outcome you want to have, and weigh that and go with that. If you believe the degree in 4 years and that time spent will make you a better candidate for the role that you're interested in, then get the degree. If you feel like, getting 5 certifications is required for the role that you want to get, then get the certifications. If you feel that you're able to do hands-on labs and speak to the role that you want to get, go that route. If you feel like you can stack one of the other two with the hands-on, then do that. It's all about what you can handle in your situation. But yeah.
Now, I'm going to go the other way with that. You said, if does a degree matter to me or does the school matter to me? And my answer was resoundingly no. However, if you say you have a degree and you do not, that matters. If you say you have a certification and you do not, that matters. And I check every single credential that someone presents to me. Some hiring managers don't, but I do. So what I'm trying to say is don't lie about it. There's a lot of advice out there that says, fake it till you make it. And I will accept some degree of embellishment on a resume if it's spin, because ultimately everything's marketing and it's all about how the stories you tell. But if you flat out lie about a credential on an application to me, you're done. Not only then, but potentially for any other position I'm hiring for that you may ever apply for.
I think you got some questions in the chat.
Yes, I was about to say that. So from Gabriel, how many of those roles truly require a degree versus certifications and experience? From your perspective, Paul.
I find that the requirements for certifications tend to be stronger than the requirements for a degree. In my experiences, job descriptions, first of all, they're not posted by the person who is by anyone who's actually doing the work. They're designed by a hiring manager and they're posted by HR. And these people are coin operated on buzzwords. So they are looking for certain terms. They may not necessarily know what those terms mean. And that's a long-winded way of saying, if you see a job application and you say, hey, I meet 50% of those requirements, apply for it. It's very likely that you're still going to be in the upper percentile of skills that are for that. And degrees are included. Experience is included. The whole thing is negotiable. And what you're looking for is, as a total package, 50 to 60% of that. Now, in my world, because I work in consulting, we have contractual requirements with our OEMs to provide certified consultants. So for certain roles that I hire for, certifications are absolutely required.
Yeah, so for example, Paul is that I work with Web Couple and Splunk. So if the client requires, hey, we need this person to have an ES admin certifications, you have to have that. It was the same at EY too, right? We had someone that lied about that, right? I think his was expired. And I think they asked him, like, hey, I'm like, it's okay if it's expired, just tell us so we're able to pay if we get trained again.
Right.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. And then, like 3 months later, he working for like one of the largest social media companies in the world, because we're EY, so we're a big ass company. And the guy can't do certain things with it. And so they asked him, like, hey, I'm like, is he trained any of this stuff? And I found out he isn't. He gets like fired like 3 days later.
That's kind of where I was going with the don't lie about it thing.
Yeah. So just to be honest, right? Half the time, they'll make a requirement. Hey, if you get hired with us, your goal is you have to get the certification within the first 90 days, right? So get core user, power user, and admin within the first 90 days to keep your job. And just do that. And normally they'll pay you to get the certification too. So do the training, take the cert, you'll be fine, right? That's super important from that standpoint. Then Nigel, from you, so what about like your team? Does your company require degrees or certifications more?
I would say they require you being able to do the role. the job duties. We actually recently just had someone join my team, level 1 analyst, and he has 14 certifications. He went the WG route. He's about to finish with his master's in cybersecurity, but you know, the interview was scenario based questions. Are you familiar with this? Do you know with this? What would you do if this happened? We didn't. There was no question on what was the answer to question 6 on the Security Plus. Like you may have to speak to some of the terminology that was on the Security Plus, but the conversation of certifications wasn't brought up. It was just, wow, you have a lot. That's good. But it's about, can you do the job duty? That's always my focus. You should take that job description or that job rec and look at this is what the day-to-day is expected for that role. And can you speak to it? Can you speak to questions that may come from that day-to-day? And your knowledge from either the degree or the certifications should validate that, but not give you that information. You may have to go and do that. So, for my team, certs, degrees, they're not talked about. What we do talk about though is, do you have a GitHub? Do you have a GitHub? Do you have a repo? What are you working on? Do you have anything cool that you're working on? Those are the conversations that we have.
Okay. And then off of that, this is one for you, Nigel. It's from Gary Bill. Nigel, have not having a degree held you back at any point in your cyber career?
Absolutely not. I started cybersecurity as a junior analyst, a level 2. I got promoted 1 year later to a senior analyst with no degree and 1 certification. It was a Security Plus. So no, it hasn't stopped me from anything, really.
I feel like once you get over that bump, once you prove yourself and go to that senior level, then you're at less of risk of that. Obviously, I got my degree while I was at my first job, but I would have to say that right now, given the breadth of my experience and my resume that I have, if I didn't have one, I don't think it would hold me back at either.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, I do know for some larger corporate firms, if you want to be like a director or CTO, they do require you to have like a master's degree for some of that type of stuff. From like, I think vanity metrics, right? From the board wants whoever they want to hire, pay 7 figures to have like a master's degree or something like that. So I know that's
Okay.
quite often.
Possibly, and in some education roles, you have to have certain levels of degree for that too. So yeah, I would say on my technical path, it wouldn't hold me back. On my current path, then yes, there are opportunities it would be. But there are also companies that offer. For my current role right now, we didn't even talk about degrees. I'm not even sure if they know I have one unless they read that far down on my resume. I have a 17-page resume for what it's worth. I break all the rules. It's stylized. It has photos on it. It does literally everything that people will tell you not to do.
Your first page must be very enticing for.
Well, and that's what I do is I summarize. I give a concise summary, and part of it is me telling a story too. Is I want to show my ability to summarize complex information in an easily digestible. And then if you go to page 2, well, that's your fault. And if you wind up on page 17, that's also your fault. I also have 4 pages of certifications. Going back to the certifications thing. Make sure that you use those wisely because every certification requires a maintenance cycle. And one thing that I find myself in right now is I've chosen to let some of my older certifications lapse that I'm no longer using right now because it can be a nightmare to maintain.
Yeah. I let my Security Plus lapse years ago.
Yeah, I had ConnectWise PSA certifications that I still do work with it, but I don't do billable work with it. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to certify to myself. I know what I'm doing.
I kept my swamp on that. I just recertified that 3 months ago. I still use it for my clients. Same for Sentinel stuff. My Security Plus expire. Same for my couple ones. I think it's my resume. I think I need to remove it. I think it's probably this year or next year. So I guess second part for the college thing is this also goes into like job preparedness. I get asked a question, often tend to go off flag for it, but I think it's pretty honest. So let's say someone doesn't decide to go to college, right? Should a person go to like an in-state college or an out-of-state college? In your opinion, Paul?
That is a complex, multidimensional question. So I'm going to say it depends, like everything. But some of the factors that I would consider are, to Nigel's point earlier, are you facing financial pressure or not? Do you have scholarships? Can you get there? What I can say is that leaving my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, was the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of growth as a person. Now, I was fortunate enough that the U.S. government dropped me over in northern Italy, which is an experience that a lot of people don't get to have. But even just moving outside of that state, I think at this point I've lived in 7 different states right now in 3 different countries. Being able to get out of state, out of your comfort zone, being exposed to people who think differently than you, people who are raised differently than you, people who have different values than you, and not resisting it as we as Americans tend to do. It's kind of a my way or the highway thing. Getting past that and realizing that no, we're not the center of the universe, and other people have valid points of view and valid ways of living and whatnot. That is extremely valuable. But again, if you have the means and the luxury to do that.
Got you. Okay. And then Nigel, I'll let you go before I go.
Oh, that's a hard follow up. I would say I agree with all of that. The biggest point I would just want to highlight is the opportunity to, I guess I would say out of state, if I had to pick, is to Paul's point, the opportunity to leave your hometown and grow. There's a personal piece that is going to be attached to that when you leave your hometown that gives you an experience to look and get a different perspective, more diversity, things like that. Get you out of your shell. You may have to communicate more because you may get comfortable in your home state. You know everyone. You get this comfortable kind of feeling, maybe a complacency. But when you move out of state, you're kind of like on your own, or you may have a few friends, or whatever the case may be. But it really will help you grow. I definitely want to highlight that part. So if I had the choice, same price, same circumstances, both in state and out of state, same degree, everything, I would definitely do out of state.
Man, if from my perspective, so I went to USF, which is 25 miles away from where I grew up in Tampa. So I stayed local, partly due for like money reasons and like just comfortability for like where I currently was. Um, so I can say the positives from that was it allowed me to naturally grow inside of myself, but I was a very, very shy introverted person out of high school. Like I thinking of like doing like what I'm doing right now. When I was like 18, I probably would have a panic attack just thinking about it, honestly. So I have come a very long way from that standpoint of it. Probably surprises people. I'm not a very outgoing person naturally. Um, but from that standpoint, it was very, very cool they get to do that. So if money was not a factor, let's say I had a scholarship that paid for it and I could go to I don't know, Duke University, even though school's expensive as hell, but let's say I had a scholarship for it. Or go to USF, right? So looking back on it, I don't know. It would have. I can't honestly say either or on what school I'd probably go to. I think piece of advice I would give people is if you can go to out of state school, pick a state where you actually want to stay in after college, because most of the opportunities that you will get will be through that state and through that local school, right? So if you go to a school in like Wyoming, right, and you don't want to stay after college, a lot of the jobs that recruit you from that school want you to stay at the state, right? So if you don't want to live there after college, it makes it harder. Granted, if you live in like if you go to like Washington University and you want to stay in like Seattle area, that's a pretty good bet, right? There's a lot of companies that can hire you out of it, so keep that in mind too. Um, as someone who did move out of the college and moved to Dallas, I'm actually moving again in like another 3 weeks, which I don't want to do, but I'm gonna do it. Um, it was life changing for me. This is the first time I've ever lived by myself. Got my own apartment. I knew no one in this entire state when I moved here. Um, First time I went to Texas was to look for an apartment in Dallas. Second time was to move all my stuff. So it was very mentally hard, especially because it was during COVID, so I couldn't talk to anybody. I cried a lot, honestly, because I didn't know anybody. My family was gone. I'm very close to my family. My mom like broke down like I got shot in the head or something. She's like crying on the floor. I'm like, Mom, I'm like, it's gonna be okay. Like I'm just like a 2 hour flight. My dad cried. I never seen my dad cry that much before. Like it's not right on the nose. My dad just relax. So it was a really big shock for my family. Um, but I'm very glad I got to move. Right, I got to become my own man, have my own stuff, create my own career, create my own values and path system. So overall, if you have the opportunity to move, from your hometown, and you don't have like kids or something where you're tied down, yeah, I would say do it from my personal perspective.
And I'll go back to the military thing. If you want to move, but you just can't make yourself do it, go sign up. They'll make you.
Yeah. So it is. I was some very like personal decisions you guys have to make for yourself, right? But look at it from like the ROI perspective, right? What will be your return on investment, monetary, non-monetary, right? From that standpoint, then make the best decision for you, yourself, and your family. There's a lot of people that should honestly move from where they are, but they don't want to move and they get stuck. As you can probably attest to, Nigel.
Yes.
Talking about the proximity jobs, I like to use Wyoming as an example. I learned after moving to Colorado, there are about 12, I don't know, there are about 100,000 more people in the city of Denver itself than the entirety of the state of Wyoming.
Yeah.
So go where the jobs are.
For example, I use this example all the time. If you're going to be like the best longshore fisherman in the entire world, you live in Kansas, you see you don't get a job there, I'm like, it's going to be hard, man. I just reality of it. Like, you can either complain about it or do something about it. It's your choice.
Now, if you want to live in a place like this, and I think I said this on a past live stream, go to where the jobs are, establish yourself, become indispensable, and then say, hey, I'm moving to Kansas. They're not going to tell you no if they need you. I know some people who did that. I've got a good friend of mine in the Cribble community where he established himself and then he moved to Nebraska, so right above Kansas. And he likes it there. He's very happy. But he's also really good at what he does.
And so that they'll probably, if you do climb means, they'll just pay for him to go. It's worth the money. So,
you know, post-COVID, no one does that. I'm actually going to Chicago tomorrow for my first client meeting in probably 5 years. But that was kind of discretionary, and I wanted to build the relationships. Traveling, especially in consulting, is really, really rare now.
Well, for EY, I think I traveled like probably every other month. That wasn't too bad. I know before COVID, they said the consultant travel every single week. I'm like, that's something got off, but like it was.
Well, before COVID, consultants, you could fund your 10 years of family vacations off the points you racked up on just company travel. Like, people are going everywhere all the time. At least in the smart consulting.
So for the last 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes, I won't talk about cyber range more. We'll open the floor to any questions you guys have about this topic. Same thing about what to pick out of college. Should you go to college? How much does it cost? Do firms actually care about you having a college degree, certifications compared to college? Please drop your questions inside the chat so we're able to answer them.
While we're waiting for those questions, full disclosure, thinking about future plans, if I ever am just sitting on a lump of cash and I'm not, doing anything else with my life at the time, I do plan to pursue a PhD just so I can be addressed as doctor before I die. But there's no practical value to my career. I just want to have a prefix to my name.
It's not a bad plan.
And it won't have anything to do with cyber. It'll likely be in psychology or philosophy or something like that. So it's just a field of study that I can expand myself into. So personal growth, but I still remember I was like 13 years old, went to go see an Arkansas Razorbacks game, and I met a doctor who was not a medical doctor, and it blew my mind at the time because as a kid, I thought all doctors had to be medical doctors. I'm like, oh, cool, I want to do that one day. So it's kind of one of those things. Bucket list.
Yeah.
Guess in the meantime, Nigel, you can talk about the workshop you're about to do with us.
Yeah. So through the ECA Cyber Range, I have created a on-demand intro to cyber threat intelligence course. Covers about 8 domains. But what also will be included is I'll be having a live session on Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern time, where we will be going and diving into a very hands-on engaged training session, right? We're going to talk about real threats that are going on. We're going to answer and get a real diagnosis and analysis of what cyber threat intelligence is. We're going to understand the 3 different types of intelligence and how to speak to them, whether it's strategic, operational, or tactical. You're going to be also doing kind of mock interviews during the sessions. So we'll do some question and scenario-based questions to really get you to understand and think and speak as a CTI analyst. So I'm very excited for it. My goal is to not only teach the students about cyber threat intelligence, but my ultimate goal really is going to help and boost their communication skills. That's really my underlying objective.
Yes. So, and for anybody that wants to do that at all, again, sign up link is inside the chat. I'm gonna drop it again so you guys have it. But Nigel is here to help everyone out. So definitely ask us any questions here. We'll stay out after the call if you guys have any questions. We're here to help. And there's the link. I'll drop it here too. Oh, we have a question from Gabriel. What do you think hiring managers value more in 2026? Degree, certs, or portfolio, or experience? I'll let you go first, Paul.
I think it depends on the hiring manager and the company. If you look at the larger companies, candidly, I don't think they know what the hell they want. If you're looking for entry-level jobs with 5 to 7 years of experience and kind of all the stuff that we see running around on LinkedIn right now about how screwed up the job market is, for those of us at smaller companies who target roles and we don't have to go through 3 layers of HR and 4 layers of AI to screen our candidates, we really value the I would say experience and skills, less so than portfolio and certs. Now, portfolio certainly helps if you can showcase what you have done, but the experience, if you can speak to it, is going to be valuable on that. And when we were talking about certifications earlier, both Nigel and Kenneth, I think, mentioned that some companies will actually pay for you to get those certifications. That's going to depend on what level you come in at. I mentioned that some of the roles I hire for require certifications, but I also hire more senior roles into my team. Our company does hire in junior people that we pay, to Kenneth's point, we put them on a path. It's like, get these 3 certifications by your 90 days and you're good on that. So I would actually say skills, and I know that's not on your list. Skills is going to be your number one thing. Second to that is going to be experience or certifications, depending on the level that you're going at. And then I would say that the least valued of that list are going to be your degree and portfolio.
Why would you say those are the least valued, in your opinion, Paul?
Because skills and experience are going to be far more valuable.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind that you don't have to work for a company to gain experience points. I think Nigel mentioned having a GitHub out there. Now, I've also seen some hiring managers that would dig in and say, oh, if your GitHub only has 1 commit, you're not a good fit here. Well, guess what? Some people work on private projects and they can't put their GitHub out there or whatnot. So I don't think drawing any hard lines out there is any good at all. But I encourage people all the time that if you're trying to get a job in tech, just do stuff and put it out there. Right? Put it on GitHub, write a blog about it, start building that. And what you're doing, I guess this kind of changes what I said about portfolio. You're at that point building a bit of a portfolio, but you're also building those skills, even if no one's necessarily paying you to do it. Because the alternative is you don't have a job, no one's paying you to do it. What are you doing anyway? Are you building yourself up? Are you making yourself better, honing your skills? Or are you lamenting not having a job? I don't know. I'm not saying anyone on this call is. I see a lot of whiners on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there definitely are. What I would tell people is, I think it's at the start of the call. If you're not willing to do certain things, someone else will do. Someone else will get the things you want to get, right? So it's your decision. Because every option in life has good and bad things about it. It's your job to decide what your goals ultimately are, and does that thing help you achieve it, and if that goal is ultimately worth it, right? If it's not, then don't do it, which is fine, right? Cybersecurity is not for everyone, all right? So is IT. That is perfectly fine. So it's otherwise you make a lot of money in this world. That is legal. So just pick and choose the things you want to do.
I don't think some people truly understand what a hustle means on that. So let me just, case in point, I was coming up on the end of my GI Bill benefits, and I had made a promise to myself to use every cent that I had invested 6 years of my life to earn. So I was working for Splunk at the time. This was the year that we went IPO. So you can imagine 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks trying to get the company ready to go public. I was going at double load to night school to get my MBA while still working a side hustle on that. So for 1 year, I went into full burst mode, and some weeks working 80, 90, 120 hours a week. I did that for a year because I wanted it. I then took some time to relax and recover after that. And I'm not saying every hustle has to be like that, but depending on where you are, depending on your circumstances, and depending on what's available to you, that level of hustle may be required. And that's what we mean by, do you really want it?
Yeah. Because when I was in college, I worked 2 jobs. I had an internship. I slept in my car some nights because I was not homeless. People think that I wasn't homeless. I was just too tired to drive back home, so I slept on the campus. I was too tired. I would wake up like at 4 a.m. I work like at 6, or from like 6 to like noon or 1. Drive to school, go to school for like 8 hours. Did like 11, drive back home, get home like at midnight, study for 2 hours, sleep for 2 hours, do it all over again. And that's what I have to do to get to this point. So.
When I was in high school, I wanted a car. My parents were very clear they weren't going to buy me a car. So the summer between my junior and senior year, I worked 2 full-time fast food jobs. I would open at McDonald's, work until the end of my shift, grab some lunch, catch a nap, and then close Taco Bell. I did that for 3 months straight, and I bought a damn car before I went to my senior year. Now, keep in mind, human beings can't sustain that level of output.
Yeah.
So please don't think that we're trying to say that this is going to be the hustle for the rest of your life. Just manage your energy, know when to go hard, know when to draw back, know when to rest and relax. It's all about knowing yourself. But people find ways, or they find excuses, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would say if you're young, you can do that and you won't die. If you're in your 60s, I'd probably say please don't do that. You're probably not going to live very long.
I'm not sure if I'd go that hard now.
Yeah. But if you're in especially your early mid-20s, if you're in really good shape, you can physically do that and you'll be fine in the long run, right? It won't really affect you that much. So you utilize that towards your advantage, especially if you're young, right? If you're young, it's okay to work 60 hours a week a lot of the time to get to where you need to go, because when you're 35 and you're 45 and you have kids and family, you can't do that, right? Because the detriment towards them will be too great. But when you're young and single, it literally just is you. Something bad happens, it normally just affects you and affects someone else. Utilize that towards your advantage. Nigel?
You covered it all.
Cool. Nigel, 1 second. You worked in a warehouse, didn't you, before you went to cybersecurity?
Yep. My journey, very unique. I used to work at a warehouse, supervisor. Woke up, sunrise shift, watching, my employees load trucks. I'm like, man, there's got to be more for me out there. And then I was like, let me get into tech. I need to get around computers. I took a help desk job. I did that for 8 months, networked, and then I got my first junior role.
I always look at a different point of entry coming in. I realized I was billed as kind of the alternative. Nigel made a great point on that. I knew a guy who lived in basically the middle of California. There's a lot of jobs in California, but they're in LA and they're in San Francisco. They're not in San Bernardino. He lived in San Bernardino. So my guy sold BMWs for a while. He worked at a car dealership, and then he went to work at the Geek Squad at Best Buy. And he's like, you know what? I want to get into tech. He used that experience working at the Geek Squad at Best Buy to then get an entry-level help desk job, and ended up becoming a director of IT from that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for, again, working like larger corporations, but like on the retail side, you guys do know almost all corporations have like IT and security departments and divisions, right?
Yes.
Walmart has a massive one, right? So if you work for those companies, definitely see if you can like get an internship there if you're in college.
Yeah, everything always has a corporate. We're working, my company right now, we're working with a massive grocery store chain. And when you go and buy your groceries, you don't think about cybersecurity. You don't think about IT. Well, we're working with their corporate offices, and we work directly with their cyber engineers and their application owners. So absolutely. And that's a great point of entry to your point, Kenneth, is if you are gaining those skills there, start asking around. If your manager is not willing to advocate for you, if your manager is not willing to open those doors for you, you're working for the wrong manager.
Yeah, thankfully, I had a really good team, and that's how I met my director from public because of my manager. He literally he came to the store, sat me down, and that's kind of how we got started. So, club maps don't get fed. So you want something? Ask for it. All right, keep asking for it multiple times.
And even the Air Force has IT and cyber. And that's, again, going back to the military, my path was certainly not IT. I built some skills and went in there. There is a comm squadron. There's signal intelligence. There's all kind of stuff in there. So, again, it comes back to how badly you want it. And, again, personal choices for yourself. I certainly understand there are strong feelings on both sides of that argument, and I'm not going to try to make that case for anyone. It is a path because I walked it.
But we are at time. So again, if there's any last minute questions at all, drop them in the comments, or you can directly ping me, Paul, or Nigel on LinkedIn, and we'll get with you guys. Again, Cyber Range Threat Intelligence Workshops start this Wednesday. If you have questions, same thing I said last time, reach out towards us. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time where we'll have on another guest speaker for us three plus Nick Gibson. He lives in Tampa. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.